Well, welcome back to episode 2 of Spirit Rising. I am Reverend Minnassa Gabon from Unity of Bloomington. I am the spiritual leader, and this is
Maryellen May. We're so glad you're here for episode 2.
So let's talk about something before we move forward. Episode 2, I have some sad news to share. My sweet Gail, who's my wife, passed away. She died on September 11th, much to my dismay. But as my mom told me, it had me, I was telling Maryellen I'm trying not to cry every day, but I am crying every day. So I was good, and then I got a card from my mom, and it said, "She is at peace." I was like, all right, 5-minute crying jag. So she is at peace. And my gift to her is to live the life that I told her I wanted to live. And so I cannot even put into words. Unity of Bloomington has come around me in a way that I had expected, but I wasn't expecting them to this soon. And I mean, just my friend, Reverend Dr. Ray Dora said, "You let your congregation know that I thank them for coming around you." So we're celebrating her this Saturday, and I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to have that precious soul in my life. All right, no tears, I did good. Okay. So let's review our very first episode, was where we talked about the problems facing the world, or as a spiritual person, a person wanting to be a transformative presence, make a difference in this world, beginning with themselves and their family, and to be a light. How do we live? Or what is the cure for what is happening? And so we talked about intimacy, taking the verse from Master Teacher Jesus when asked, can you sum up the 10 Commandments? Which was a trick question, because whatever he said was going to be wrong, and then they were going to throw rocks. But instead, it's like, I'm one with the divine mind, so here's your answer. And then they were mad. But anyway, he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that's the linchpin. Most of us don't love ourselves. Or you don't love yourself. So yeah, I'm mad at myself. I'm judging myself. So then all that goes to your neighbor. So we want to clean that up by increasing our intimacy of ourselves, our being self-aware, loving ourselves, acknowledging ourselves. I had a friend today who was snarky about something and came across in an email. And when I talked to her, I'm like, "Are you okay?" She said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Don't apologize. You felt what you felt, and that's important, to be self-aware. I'm feeling angry about this right now." That's honest. And so that intimacy, that self-awareness is where it begins, because when I can love myself, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, I can then look at someone else and give them that same love. And so that's what we talked about. And so today I want to continue on that theme of intimacy, but bring it into our unity principles. So we have 5 basic principles. Or actually, I think Ginger did a program where she said it was actually 2 principles and 3 action steps. So she sees the last 3 principles as actually how to live out the first 2. So let's talk about our unity principles. So the first 2 principles, the first and probably the most important and principle that sets unity apart from traditional Christianity. And I will say that if the rapture happens today and you see me on TV for having committed a crime, I'm admitting to it ahead of time. I've already told Maryellen and Jonna I'm going to get in these churches and get all their glassware and silverware and linens out. But okay, I digress. So God is everywhere present, absolute good. But God in unity and in new thought really is not a thing. It's not some magical man in the sky. It is a principle of absolute good. So anything related to God is absolute good, right? So that's why even when my wife first came home and said, "Oh my gosh, my myeloma has come back," I looked at her and I said, "All is well." And she affirmed, "All is well," that all is well. So that God is absolute good, and that anything that God makes is of God. And we are God's creation. We are this essence, this principle. And so we are also absolute good as well. So this concept that somehow, because of something that some man and woman did in this garden, now I'm messed up and I have original sin, and so I got to say this prayer or go to catechism, right? I mean, that's already jank. It's like, well, that's not my fault. Ooh, they messed up. Why am I getting punished, right? So these 2 principles, that God is absolute good and that we are God. God in expression, God in motion. We are absolute good ourselves. And so that way it sort of helps you paint a different view of other people, right? Because if I know that I'm absolute good, even in my mistakes, and I see that other person is absolute good, then they're no longer bad. They're not the cause of everything that's bad. They're good. They are God and I am God. That's that namaste, that the God within me recognizes and honors, celebrates, adores the God within you. And if we could live in that namaste moment, that would help with a lot of the stuff that's happening and going on with us. So I want to talk about something that we have used a lot at Unity, presented by Dr., as I call him, David Hawkins. Dr. because he's a medical doctor and he's also a PhD. And this is his work, The Map of Consciousness. Because this next stage of intimacy with myself, approving of myself, loving myself, graciousness to myself. I tell people are like, I was trying to do this. I'm like, just be gracious with yourself. Right? Just be gracious. So then if I can apply that graciousness and patience, I can then do that with other people. But the map of consciousness has a line like shame, guilt, fear, but there's a place where you get to courage. And that's when you go into a higher consciousness, because courage is curiosity. Like if you are white or black, let's just say white or black for this country, and you've eaten Persian food, Mexican food, Chinese food, Thai food, Venezuelan, they have that Venezuelan food truck, that was courage because it was a curiosity. Well, let me eat this. Let me try this. Have you ever gone into like the bodega? Did you give me that beautiful Mary candle?
Yes.
Because I was like, there ain't no Mexicans around here. Where did this come from? I always said, right, again. But again, that curiosity to go and to do something different, to go into a different type of store, and you'll see on the map of consciousness, that's what increases you to a higher consciousness. If you're not curious, you're fearful, you're guilty, you have shame. So, most of us, I've been there, done that, got a t-shirt and a medal and an award and a trophy and all that stuff. So I'm not talking about it like, well, I'm so holy because I'm the spiritual leader. No, been there, done that. But there came a point to where I had to actually walk away from traditional religion, but say to God, I'm leaving you here. But there's a part of me that knows there's something more. So can I be courageous to look at that? And I think that courageousness is what helps us have intimacy with ourselves and with others. What do you think, Maryellen? You just let me yammer on here and here.
What it's all about. And I feel like courage doesn't mean that fear isn't present.
Correct.
It means that we're choosing to move forward even when we're fearful.
I think there's a great quote that I have no idea who it's by, but it's do it if your knees are shaking. Say it if your voice is quivering, right? That this isn't about perfection. That at this moment, I'm afraid, where's my life? I had all these plans, Gail and I were going to do this. So now who am I as Minnassa, right? I've been Donna's daughter and Julie's sister and Lily's mother. I was married before he who shall not be named wife, right? And I had the great joy, 11 years of being Gail's wife. Well, now I get to go on a whole new journey of who am I now? Who am I in my 60s, untethered, right? Single again. Don't get any ideas. Right, and there's a courage and a curiosity there. Think about your dad and Mary. They could have just stayed in their little cry and pity for themselves, but oh my God, they're the cutest couple. Right? People who have tried again. And so that courage and to be curious is how I look at someone, not through the lens of my fear, not through the lens of my judgment, but with curiosity. What is it about you that's different from me, but that I can learn from, that I can enjoy, that I can even disagree with, be like, okay, you're still good. You're still the divine. I think that's how our spirituality comes. I think we're talking about I don't know what's the right word, the recent death, the assassination of a young man, Charlie Kirk. Two things can be true at the same time. That what happened to him should not have happened. Just because you disagree with someone politically doesn't mean you just get a gun and be shooting people. Robert Kennedy Sr., John F. Kennedy Sr., Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., all these people were assassinated because someone disagreed with what they were saying. And okay, had they been curious, had they had the courageousness to say, well, why is what this person's saying is bothering me so much? Or why am I feeling this kind of way? Now, I'm in no way, yes, I don't think I know for sure that the way that Charlie Kirk died was not right. But I completely disagree with his whole thing. This is, Maryellen, you might need to cover your ears from this. I blocked 2 of my friends on Facebook that I used to work with at Baptist in Mississippi. 2 young people, 2 smart, 2 loving, 2 gracious people who were going on and on and on about this man, about, oh, what a, I was like, block, right?
Same.
Because they work with black patients all the time. And I think this man said, if I see a black pilot, I hope he's qualified. You know? I'm saying, okay, brother, you can feel that way. Get off the plane then. Right? So he deserved more life. He deserved to be at his children's high school graduation. If his children wanted to get married, he deserved to be at their wedding. He deserved to be celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary with his wife. But when he chose fear as his medium, judgment, othering, he was not curious, and he was operating in those lower levels of the maps of consciousness. And unfortunately, you attract those type of people. So you have this whole set of fear-based, othering, judging, non-loving people because, one, they don't love themselves. So I come back to this, and right, because God's judging them, right? God is mad because, someone said, let's look at this plan. God made a world, put some people in there. They messed up the plan. So then he had to kill himself for the plan, then raise himself for the plan. And now if you don't get with the plan, he's going to kill you and you're going to be in hell forever. It's like, okay, your plan was stupid from the beginning, right? So even then to be curious and say I don't think this plan is good. We need to look at this theology in a different way. Right? But most people don't do that. So your family tells you. I was on an airplane years and years ago, and there was a black stewardess. I don't know what the word is now, flight attendant. And there was a young white boy on the plane, and she was helping him, was, flying without his parents. And he told the other stewardess, she doesn't want to help me because I'm white. And the other stewardess was white. She's like, no. But I thought at 8 or 9, he didn't just wake up one day and feel that way. He was hearing that in his house. And if we never get curious or courageous to question what we hear in our house, that you don't have value, that you're only important if you have a piece of paper. Why are African American the most educated people here? Because we believe that these papers are going to open doors that people shut in our faces. Is that true? Right? So I have all these papers, so now you're going to hire me, or now I have value. Right? I got papers. But again, if I could see that I have value, so y'all don't know this, but everyone loves Maryellen. My daughter loves Maryellen, and I love Maryellen. So I had this whole plan with her dad, which I told him, that if he ever fell down and cracked his head and didn't know what was going on, I would hand him a piece of paper, which he could just sign Maryellen over to me. Now, Maryellen's mother is still alive, and I told her this story, and she's like, well, I'm not going to sign the papers. And I'm like, I'm not going to ask you to sign the papers, because I'm just going to get Michael's signature, and we're going to be good to go, right? So my love for Maryellen, my daughter hates everybody, right? I'm just saying. So I'm having lunch with Maryellen. I'm like, you are? I said, oh, God, maybe they need to talk about something. They're like, oh, I had lunch with Maryellen. Maryellen dumped me one time. We had to do the podcast later because she's having lunch with Lily, right? This is love. Something about Maryellen that Lily loves her. I love her, right? But Maryellen was a stranger to us a year ago, right? So there's a curiosity. I don't know this person, but I see something in their energy, right? My friends, I took He Who Shall Not Be Named to spend the weekend with my friends. They're like, well, right, nice to him, good to my ex-husband. Well, I came there with Gail one weekend. I get back, my friend Michael calls me and says, if you break up with Gail, we're keeping her. Right? Again, that love, that curiosity, how can I embrace? And so this is our principle. There is no bad person. They are operating from a lack of love for themselves, from a fear base, from a not knowing their value, from someone got it in their consciousness, guilt, shame, fear, you're less than. And so what we do with unity, and when the spirit rises within you, you're rising up that map of consciousness to courage, love, enlightenment. And that's what spirit rising is, and that's what we're about. We're going to take this principle that God is absolute good. So I guess I even have to say somehow liver and onions is also good. I'm going to keep moving with that, right? But that, I have said this before, and people get mad, but even I have to say, because I don't agree with how he acts and how he's representing this country, but I say that Donald Trump is good. That Donald Trump has the divine within him the same way that I do. I spend time cultivating that, and I would say that he does not, right? But I'm not going to judge him based on that. He is worthy of love. And I really wish he knew that. This is a person, I'm telling you, all the therapists in the world are probably having a field day with him. His lack of love. You know, I used to teach his class, and I used to teach a philosophy class. Philosophy is about love and all that stuff. So talk about a person who's bad, like we were talking about Hitler, a person who's bad. And Lily in the class, like all these college students, I don't know, she was like 12 or something. So Lily raises her hand to participate. We're talking about alien and predator. Right? Because so let's take the evilness off the planet, right? So here are these creatures that appear to be evil, but are they? You show up at their planet with AK-47s or whatever kind of guns. Now, they were doing things that to us it appeared to be bad to humans, but to them, it was how they reproduce. The person wakes up like, alien comes out, and they start shooting everything up. Now, these monsters, they don't know what's happening. These people have guns, they're shooting us, right? They're just defending themselves, right? So then we talked about predators. So here's Lily's response. What could you do for evil people like alien or predator? So she said that predator just needed more hugs. Right? And I'm like, okay, right? But listen to this child's mind, right? A curiosity, a courageousness. I ain't trying to hug either of those things. First of all, ew. I mean, I was like, could I hug alien? They're just ew. They're just creepy, right? But a child's mind, I will be courageous and realize that this creature just needs an acceptance, a love. So if we can do that, what is this Labubu thing? And we want to hug our little, I just love your little cat outside. I want to hug people's dogs. Why can't we do that with each other? Right? I see a human, I'm like, why? But I see some dog, I'm like, oh, I love you. Why? Because those animals, they're not judging us. Right? So let's start not judging ourselves and create more and more namaste moments where I step into my divinity, my goodness, my holiness. So what? Did you just say you're holy? Yes, because I'm everything that God is. And when I see the Grand Canyon, I see holiness. I see perfection. I stand at the rim of Lake Tahoe. Such a beautiful place. Look at the red rocks in Sedona. I mean, there is a beauty there, a holiness there, a sacredness there, an invitation to become more. And even, I love flowers. I mean, my house has been, I thought I could open a flower shop right now, right? All that beauty created by this one power, one presence is me, is Maryellen, is you. And if we could step into that, so when we step into the grocery store, step into our divinity, our love, our light, when we're in the mall, when we're in wherever, at work, in your home, if we could come in that presence, saying, I'm the beauty of a rose, and I see roses in everyone I interact with, it would be a different world. That's intimacy. That is courageousness. That is moving up the map of consciousness, living from a higher consciousness, but it takes work. I mean, Dr. Hawkins has 20 books about that. He has two books that have a map of consciousness in there. Again, this is about intention. I think that's what we're talking about next time. Got to be intentional. This isn't like, I love everybody. No, that's not intentional. It is, I love myself. I know my value. And based on that, yes, I can love everybody. I can disagree with you and say, you're not someone I want to have in my house, But if I saw you outside and you needed help, I'm here to help you. It's about understanding your value, knowing who you are, treating others like that, right? Every religion or spiritual path, we'll use that term, has the golden rule in some form. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. How different would the world be if everyone just did that?
Completely different.
Correct. If we treated people how we wanted to be treated. But again, do you know your value? So I think, I know, and I feel that this intimacy with ourselves, this understanding that of our value, that we are good. I used a message from You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. You are a badass at making money. And then today I read for our daily inspirational call from her book, You Are a Badass. Again, her baseline is, if you know your value, you will then create and draw to you all the things that you want and deserve. But it comes from knowing your value and knowing that there's more than enough. So I guess if the rapture hits today, I don't need to go stealing from the churches because there's more than enough. No, I'm going to be in those churches. Maryellen, what do you think about all this stuff I'm saying?
It's wonderful. Can we maybe ground it with a little simple practice?
All right. We did a breathing technique. If you couldn't breathe, you would know it. But we take our breath for granted. That's, as I stood there as my wife stepped back into eternity, her breaths became less and less and less. But our breath is the source. That word, if you use it from the Greek, if you're reading from the Christian New Testament, the pneuma, that spirit, it's your breath. The life force is our breath. And that, say, well, Minnassa, I'm not spiritual like you, or I get it. But it took one step. I left the traditional church. I went into Barnes and Nobles, because the bookstore has always been my safe place in the library. And I went to the New Age section, to the border. And then I turned around and walked away, because something was drawing me. And then I went in again, and actually went in. I thought, no, this is the devil trying to fool me. So I walked away. But that curiosity and that courage, where I went in and I picked up something by Louise Hay or Wayne Dyer or Abraham Hicks, and I was hooked. But it took that at the edge, take that breath, and I kept moving forward. So I want to have us do a simple connect to our breath that, Maryellen, I think we talked about a lot of people, when you get frustrated, you'll be like, right, you did the last half of the breath, but you didn't call into you new life. You didn't call into you strength. You didn't call into you wholeness, but you were releasing that stress and that toxicness that you were feeling. So let's complete the cycle. So we're going to do 3 breaths. I always talk about a yogic breath that most of us, and watch my mic, breathe up here from our lungs. And we're not even filling up the lung capacity with that breath. But if you can breathe from your diaphragm. So we're going to breathe to where your stomach actually goes out, not in. And then when you exhale, we're going to have you push like you're trying to push your belly button back to your spine, which won't happen because all those squishy organs are in the way. But it's a way to really connect. Say, well, that's too simple. Actually, it is. If you think about many of the challenges that happen in the African American community, like with Mike Brown, calling out, I can't breathe, right? The power of the breath, that something was happening. I couldn't connect to my essence. And so we want to come that same way, connecting to our essence consciously, knowing that I am at ease. All is well, because no matter what's going on outside of me, within me is the very presence of love, light, and wholeness. And I'm going to take a breath to connect to it. It's like Maryellen, we live here in a college town. These kids, girl, be driving. Sometimes you got to take a breath. I don't want the mayor to see me on the news, so I got to be on my best behavior. So we're going to take 3 yogic breaths. You're going to breathe in to where your stomach goes out. We're going to hold it, and then we're going to exhale with a sigh, but really trying to empty our lungs of any stale, stagnant air. and breathe in. All right, so we'll do it on the count of 3. Let's just get a little settled, get our shoulders. Maybe if you need to move them back and forth, or forward and back, as it is good for you. If you just had rotator cuff surgery, please don't do that. You can move your head to no and yes. Just really becoming present. What does your seat feel like? What do your feet feel like? Come back to this space. All right, let's take our first breath in. Hold it and then exhale. Let's breathe in again. And exhale. And then let's breathe in again through our nose. And exhale. Yes, I should have began this with, going to breathe in through our nose and then exhale through our mouth. So let's do one last one. Breathe in and out. So one of my favorite exercises. It's how amazing. When you breathe, you connect with your essence. You connect with your true self. There is a peace, a stillness, a wholeness, a oneness that gives you the power and the courage to be curious, to be loving, to be gracious, to be forgiving, to be kind to yourself first. And then that radiates out to others. See, Maryellen's all chilled out over here. I had to finish this podcast without Maryellen because she went someplace else.
I hear you saying, and I notice for myself that when I practice intimacy with myself, it naturally extends outward.
Correct. One of the things, now that my sweet Gail has returned to eternity, Lily wants me to get a dog. And as they, we're all pack animals. It says in the introduction of Genesis, when it's doing the second creation narrative, it's not good for man to be alone. Yes, we're all pack animals. Just like animals run in packs, humans used to do that. You used to live in a house with your great-grandparents and your grandparents but now it's like, the American individualism, I'm going to live in my own house by myself and just sitting there. Because we're not made for that. That's why so many people are on the edges mentally, because we're not made to be isolated. And so, yes, community. I have my own understanding and love and joy of myself, and I get in a community full of people like that, it just spreads out. And so, yes, very true, very true. You love yourselves, you can't help but love other people. So next week I saw, I can't believe I haven't said one word about gratitude. That's my whole deal. It's like my stilo. So we're going to talk next time we have an episode about intention, because that Christianity, any Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Jainism, all of those, and the spiritual path that we're on is all about being intentional. That's part of the reason Christianity's gone off the rails, because people they do things unconsciously. I went to church, I took my communion, I did this. Well, why did you do it? I don't know. You've lost the power of it. But if you can be intentional as you bring your best self and you live as a spiritual being, that one of the things that was true is that as I looked at my sweet wife in the bed, I thought, she's not in there. That's the case that held her. And that case hugged me and loved me, but it was her inside of it. And so we have to remember that while this matters, right? I want to have my body, so eat all the yummy food that Maryellen fed me before we started. But the true me, it is my intention and how I use this body. It's my intention, how I use my voice. It's my intention and how I draw community to me that starts to create. And then we're going to apply one of my most magical principles, which is the power of gratitude. So thank you for joining us on the second episode. We're interested in your thoughts, your comments. Now, if you have mean stuff to say, keep it to yourself. There was this young kid who was doing Pokemon, a young black boy about, he looked like he was like 17, 16. Talking about Pokemon. Now, I love Pokemon. Say, how old you are, none of your business. But some guy started saying all these horrible racial slurs to him. He's talking about Pokemon. Well, the guy was a nerd, which is probably a slur in itself, but he was a nerd. Well, he knew how to back engineer everything. He found out where that man lived and told him, I know where you live, and started dropping little hints, right? If you want to be unkind, go to someone else's channel. This is a place for love and light. We can disagree, and if you want to disagree in a kind, loving, and gracious way, you're more than welcome. But if you just want to be, like, people want to be trolls. You know, Mike Tyson said people are safe on the internet because you can't get punched in the face. Just saying, quoting the great Mike Tyson, right? Just be kind. You say, you know what, I don't believe in what you're saying. That's fine. Go on your journey. Go with joy. I will continue moving forward with love and grace. We'll see you on the 3rd episode. Shout out to Maryellen, because we did this first one just audio, and we found out we could do it on our YouTube thing. So welcome to the first episode where you actually get to see us. That's why we both are wearing lipstick. Anything else, ma'am?
Thank you so much for joining us, and please do leave your questions and comments, and join us next time as we explore the spiritual superpower of gratitude. We'll see you then.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.